Good day, folks. Today in this video, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of the Hero 7 Black versus the Osmo Action. If you're in the market to pick up an action camera this summer, but you're not quite sure which one to go with, hopefully this video will help you out. We're going to talk about their features and what performs best on each camera, and hopefully that will help you decide which camera is best for you. So let's just jump right in and take a closer look. So this video is not going to be a comparison of video quality versus stabilization versus photo quality, as both cameras, when you get right down to it, are pretty close. When it comes to the internal specs of both cameras, they're pretty identical, and when you get down to it, the photo quality, video quality, even stabilization is pretty minuscule, and I wouldn't let that be a deciding factor. However, there are a lot of pros and cons to both cameras, so that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So we're going to start with the Hero 7 Black, and we're going to talk about its features and where it excels over the Osmo Action. Then afterwards, we'll focus on the Osmo Action and talk about different areas where it excels over the Hero 7 Black. The Hero 7 Black offers GPS. Now that's not important to everybody, but it can be important to many. The Osmo Action does not support GPS. And basically, GPS allows you to add a lot of different telemetry data to your videos. It also embeds GPS locations to your photos, so that is one area where the GoPro Hero 7 Black is better than the Osmo Action. The GoPro Hero 7 also supports live streaming. You cannot live stream with your Osmo Action. Another nice option of the Hero 7 Black is the ability to add tags throughout a video. This can come in really handy when editing and when using programs like Quick. You can add tags as you're filming just by hitting the mode button or telling the GoPro to add a tag, or you can add them later when viewing the footage back. When you throw all your footage into a program like Quick, it knows where all the important moments are and can make you a nice auto edit. Both the Hero 7 Black and the Osmo Action have a nice wide lens. However, with the Hero 7 Black, you do have the option for Super View. That gives you an extremely wide field of view, and that can be very important to some people when filming certain scenarios. You can fit a lot more data into the screen. Now, at the point of filming this video, you cannot do hyperlapses on the Osmo Action. The Hero 7 Black has a nice feature called Time Warp where you can make some really smooth and interesting hyperlapses. It will be coming to the Osmo Action, it's just not available yet. If you're a filmmaker, hyperlapses can be important. It's a great way to get some interesting B-roll footage. Now, I had early access to the Osmo Action, and in some of the early builds of the software, there was an option to create hyperlapses. However, for the final release of firmware, they decided to take it out of there. I'm assuming they wanted to tweak it a little bit further. The little bit of time that I did get to play with the hyperlapsing on the Osmo Action, it was nothing spectacular. It worked well, but I think it did need some work. So you can expect hyperlapses to be added back to the Osmo Action sometime in the future. Another nice feature of the Hero 7 Black is some of its night shooting modes. If we go to the time-lapse mode, you can see we have night-lapse photo. That allows you to easily go in and create a really cool night time-lapse without having to know too much about the settings and what to set your shutter speed at. You can leave it all in auto and still end up with some really good results. And the same is for photos. We can go in and take night photos. That takes a lot of the guesswork out, and especially for those who are new to action cameras and wanting to get some interesting night shots, you don't have to worry about so much about the settings. You can leave it in auto and still get some really good results. Now, of course, the Osmo Action is fully capable of taking night time-lapses and night photos. However, you have to know a little bit more about ISOs and shutter speed, and you have to do everything manually. If you're fairly new to photography and new to action cameras, that can be a little overwhelming, and sometimes to get really good results takes a lot of time and practice. Now, for the next benefit of the GoPro Hero 7 Black, it's to do with connecting an external microphone. And again, this is kind of time sensitive because I'm sure that's going to change in the very near future. As of right now, there's no way to connect an external microphone to your Osmo Action. DJI has not made any reference to a microphone adapter that you can plug into the Osmo Action. As with a GoPro, the hardware has been around for quite some time to add external microphones. Now, with that said, the external microphone adapter for the Hero 7 Black has been out of stock on almost every store for quite some time, so that kind of puts them both at a balanced playing field. However, many people already own the microphone adapter, and at some point they will come back into stock, so again, that'll give GoPro the edge. Even though DJI has not made any mention about a microphone adapter, I'm pretty confident that they will be introducing one in the very near future. Now, one really important benefit to the GoPro is that it has a large ecosystem of gear already available. Now, with that said, because DJI has adopted the finger mount system, a lot of the gear like mounts, handles, grips, things like that are compatible, 100% compatible with the Osmo Action. But when it comes into things like cases, housings, and frames, they just are not available for the Osmo Action yet. DJI has not released any official ones yet. I've seen some prototypes prototypes for some third-party ones that should be popping up on Amazon anytime. Different kind of vlogging frames and waterproof casing. So definitely we'll keep an eye out for them. And that kind of leads me into the next point where the GoPro has the edge over the Osmo Action, and that is that it is capable of using remotes. GoPro has a few different remotes that they've developed for the GoPro Hero 7 Black. As of right now, the only way to remotely control your Osmo Action is via the Mimo app. Now, we could see a remote down the road from DJI for the Osmo Action, but DJI has not made any mention of it as of yet. So right now, at this point in time, if you need a remote, if that's important for you, then the Hero 7 Black is your better choice. Another really handy feature of the Hero 7 Black over the Osmo Action is the ability to zoom in both photos and videos. You can click on that plus sign there and you can see you can zoom in and out. Now you can't zoom while you're recording, but it's just enough to maybe reframe your shot if need be. That's a really handy feature. Something we may see on the Osmo Action via firmware update at some point, but as of right now, there's no way to zoom with your Osmo Action. Another really nice feature of the Hero 7 Black is its companion apps. From GoPro, you can get the GoPro Quick app, which auto-edits all your videos for you, and you can get just the regular GoPro app. I find the GoPro app a little bit more robust and a little bit more useful than the DJI Mimo app. Don't get me wrong, the Mimo app is quite good. You can do pretty well everything you need to do with it. I just find it still needs some work, and some new features are definitely welcome. So just a few more things about the GoPro, and then we're going to go over to the Osmo Action. Now, another feature that the Hero 7 Black has that is not available on the Osmo Action, and that is the ability to connect via an HDMI port. You can connect this to an external monitor or a TV and play back your content. It's a small little feature, but important to some. Now, again, another benefit to the Hero 7 Black is you don't need to activate it. With the Osmo Action, as soon as you buy it, you have to connect it to your smartphone, then connect to the internet, and you have to activate it. Personally, I'm not a fan of that myself. It is a very small issue, not a big deal. But for myself, when you spend money on this, you shouldn't have to have internet and have a smartphone to be able to use it. You should be able to just power it on and start recording. Again, it's a very small issue. There could be situations where you run into trouble. If somebody buys a brand new Action and not realizing that they have to activate it, they head out on holidays and they're in a rural area with no internet connection, then what do? You're now stuck with a camera that you can't use. I can see activation on certain products, but a small action camera like this, I don't really see the need to have to activate it. Now, when it comes to batteries for these action cameras, I kind of changed my opinion a little bit. If you watch my review of the Osmo Action, I talk about its battery system, and I really liked it. In fact, I liked it better than the GoPro. And the reason why was to do with the way DJI implemented it. You can see it has kind of the body of the camera built into the battery, and it clips right in. And the reason I like this design is that every time you bought a new battery, you got a new seal. These seals can break down over time, and I thought, well, that could really extend the longevity of the camera. The other nice feature is that when you go to click the battery in, if it's not all the way clicked in, you get that little bit of an orange marker, and it'll tell you if it's not clicked in properly. Now, I've kind of changed my mind a little bit, and I feel that's more of a hindrance to the Osmo Action, and I'm kind of giving GoPro the better advantage when it comes to the battery design, and I'll kind of tell you why. Sometimes when you're in a hurry, and I've already done it myself a few times, I've clicked the battery in, and, off I go, and it's not till later I'm looking, and I'm like, oh, that battery's not even in 100%. And that could become a problem, people clipping it in and, if they're in a hurry and not really double checking to make sure it's sealed properly, you could potentially get some moisture down in your camera. So that could potentially be a problem. The other thing is when it comes to third-party batteries. Now, when it comes to third-party batteries, not everybody uses them. Some people prefer just to use ones straight from the manufacturer. Everybody has their own opinion on that. When it comes to drone batteries, I would never use a third-party battery. I would only ever use one directly from, say, DJI or GoPro or whoever made the product. But when it comes to these action cameras, I have used many third-party batteries over the years, and I've never had a single problem with them. And with third-party batteries, usually you can get them quite cheap. So the problem then comes in when a third-party manufacturer goes in and makes these batteries, you don't know what kind of quality you're going to get on that seal. So that could potentially also be a problem with cheap third-party batteries. Now, one last little feature of the Hero 7 Black before we move on to the Osmo Action, and that's its ability to record in the H.265 codec. For a lot of people, that's really not important and a non-issue at all, but there are some people that need that codec, and that's just not available at this point in time on the Osmo Action. So as you can see from the first half of this video, the GoPro Hero 7 Black does have quite a few advantages over the Osmo Action. But now it's the Osmo Action's turn. Let's see what benefits it has over the GoPro. So unless you've been living under a rock, one of the main selling points of the Osmo Action is its front screen. So that's one huge advantage it has over the GoPro. Now, to some people that's a non-issue because it's something that they'll never use, but many people, including myself, make well use of that front screen. And I really hope that GoPro adopts a dual screen method or maybe a flip screen on the Hero 8. That's as long as it doesn't eat up more battery power than it should. Definitely a huge advantage over over the Hero 7 Black. Now the next thing I want to point out here is cosmetic, and it's a minor thing, and there's kind of 2 points to it. Now when it comes to cosmetics, it's usually not a big issue. Ideally you just want something that performs well. But when you're spending a lot of money on gear, you like something that looks nice. And personally I think the Osmo Action looks a bit better than the Hero 7 Black. GoPro changed the material of the Hero 7 Black last year. They've made it black, but the material just looks a little bit cheaper. The Osmo Action just looks like a really premium device. I just find it looks really sharp compared to the Hero 7 Black. And that goes into my next point. I can't really do a true comparison because the Osmo Action is fairly new. The problem I've always had with my GoPros, after a few months they start to look really beat up. Like even if you look at my GoPro here, I don't know if it shows up well on film or not, but it's pretty banged up. This rubber texture gets markings on it. Just from putting it in and out of the frame, I've got some scratches and some scuffs. The kind of that rubberized coating starts to look old after a while. And I noticed that wear within a few weeks of having it. I have yet to find a scratch or a scuff on my Osmo Action. Even though it's only been out for about a month now, I've actually had this one here for probably about 3 months because I had early access to it. And I've used it quite a bit. I've had it thrown in my camera bags, in my pocket, rubbing up against different things. And I have yet to find really a blemish or scratch or scuff. So over time, it's going to stay looking nice. And again, that's a very small issue, but when you're spending money on camera gear, you want it to stay looking nice for as long as possible. Another benefit of the Osmo Action over the GoPro Hero 7 Black is its capabilities when doing long exposures. So for example, if we go into manual settings, we go to shutter speed, and as you can see, when we go into the shutter speeds there, we can set it to a max of 120 seconds. So you can do some nice long exposure photos with that. And especially at night, if you want to get a nice clear night shot, setting it at 120 seconds, you could do some really interesting creative things. With a GoPro, you can only do a maximum long exposure of 30 seconds. And while I have both cameras powered on here, I just want to show you here, you can see that the screen of the Osmo Action is a little bit larger. The height is the same on both, but the Osmo Action screen is a little bit wider. So being able to see more data in your screen gives the Osmo Action a little bit more of an advantage. Now another really important advantage of the Osmo Action is bitrate. The Osmo Action has a standard bitrate of 100 megabits per second. The GoPro has a variable bitrate, and shooting in standard auto mode, you're going to get about 60 megabits per second. If you turn on Pro Tune, it's going to be a little bit higher at 78 megabits per second. Now another interesting thing that the Osmo Action has over the Hero 7 Black is this little cooling vent here. That can be very important for extended recording. If you're recording at 4K 60, these cameras can get really warm. I haven't done too much testing with heat as of yet. I do plan on doing that at some point in the near future, but definitely a welcome feature. And another nice feature, and I've talked about this in many of my videos so far, is that the lens on the Osmo Action comes on and off very easy. Now the very first time you get it, it can be on there very tight. You have to put a lot of force to get it off. But if you damage your lens, you need to replace it. You can take it on and off fairly easy after that. Or if you're adding accessories like ND filters, switching them out is not a problem anymore. And for those who have a Hero 7 Black, you know what I mean. Getting this front lens cover off is quite challenging sometimes, even if it's been off once or twice. It requires a lot of patience, and sometimes you end up just giving up. Being able to change your ND filters when out in the field quickly and easily is quite important, and I really hope that the Hero 7 Black, or the Hero 8 Black I should say, when it comes out this fall, adopts something similar. A really nice feature of the Osmo Action is the ability to create custom modes. For example, if we go to our modes and we go over to custom, I've already made one that's in there. What custom modes do allow you to create certain shooting modes, like say you film a lot in 4K 60, but you also shoot a lot in 4K 24. You can go in and set your modes. You can tell it if you want stabilization on, different parameters. And instead of having to go in and change your settings to what you want every time you want to switch your mode, you can just go to customs, select the one that you've created, and you start shooting. I can save a lot of time and aggravation when out in the field. So I think that's another really great feature of the Osmo Action. The Osmo Action has the ability to shoot HDR videos, where the Hero 7 Black cannot. I have not used it a lot. I can't really comment on it, the quality of it, or how it works. The little bit of testing I have done, it does make some improvement. The other thing to keep in mind with HDR is that your rock steady is not enabled. So if you're shooting in HDR, you have to have this mounted somewhere stable or in a gimbal. But that is one feature that the Osmo Action has that the Hero 7 Black doesn't. Now when it comes to price, the Osmo Action is $50 cheaper than the regular price of the GoPro Hero 7 Black. However, many retailers have discounted the Hero 7 Black just to stay stay competitive with the Osmo Action. Now, both the Osmo Action and Hero 7 Black are both waterproof right out of the box. You don't require any additional housing. The Hero 7 Black is waterproof up to 10 meters, and the Osmo Action is waterproof up to 11 meters. It's a very small difference, but it does give the Osmo Action the advantage. Now, when it comes to the menu system, I prefer that of the Osmo Action. If you look at the screens here, it's very decluttered, but still gives you all the important information you need. I also find changing settings on the Osmo Action a little bit easier and a little bit more intuitive. Now, one benefit the GoPro does have is you can turn off all that information off the screen with a simple touch. That gives you a full viewing area. You can't turn any of that text off on the Osmo Action. Now, one nice feature of DJI products, and it's something we really haven't experienced with the Osmo Action yet, and that is the amount of quality updates to the different products. Now, DJI updates not only include bug fixes and enhancements, but they tend to also add totally new features that are really useful. If you take a look at the Mavic 2 Pro or even the Smart Controller, what we got on release day and what we can do with it now is quite a bit different. They've added a lot of really useful new features, and I expect the same with the Osmo Action. What you can do with your Osmo Action right now is going to be quite different than what you can do with it maybe 6 months from now as DJI releases firmware updates. Now, that's a hypothetical benefit because we haven't really seen what DJI is going to do with the Osmo Action, but if you look at their track record, we can expect some interesting updates. Now, when it comes to recording in 4K, the Osmo Action has one huge advantage over the Hero 7 Black, and that is the ability to turn on dewarp. It basically gets rid of that fisheye look when filming in 4K, similar to GoPro's linear. Now, you cannot shoot in linear in 4K on the GoPro. That's something that's never been added and a big complaint by many GoPro users. Now, when you shoot with dewarp on, you do lose a bit of field of view, but being able to record in 4K without that distortion is huge for many people. Now, when it comes to changing modes on a GoPro using the mode button on the side, as you press it, it cycles through 3 basic modes. You can do something very similar with the quick switch button on the Osmo Action. But as you can see, it does give you more shooting modes. And not only that, we can go in and select what modes are displayed. As you can see, we can take check marks out of certain modes and add certain ones. You can even add your custom modes that you create. That's a really nice feature and can save you a lot of time when you're cycling through all your different modes. Now, when it comes to creating time lapses on your Osmo Action, it definitely has the edge. For example, if we swipe up and go to our settings here, the first thing you notice right away, it shows us our video duration. That can be really handy when you're trying to calculate the length of a time lapse. As we change the parameters, that middle number adjusts accordingly. I'm in video time lapse right now, and as you can see, we have a lot more intervals to choose from than that of the Hero 7 Black. If I go over to photo time-lapse mode, you can see it gives us even higher intervals that we can choose from. So you definitely have more adjustments to your parameters when creating time-lapses. Well, folks, that's pretty well it for my pros and cons video of the Osmo Action and Hero 7 Black. Hopefully this video helped you out if you're in the market for a new action camera and didn't confuse you more. At the end of the day, they're both excellent cameras, and no matter which one you go with, you're going to be very happy with it. You just have to go over the features and decide what's going to suit you best for the kind of shooting you're going to do. Now, if I've missed anything, I encourage you to share it down below in the comments. If you have thoughts of the features and which performs better in your opinion, please comment down below. I'm sure others will find that information very informative. That's it for my video. Thanks a lot for watching. Hopefully you found it had value. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, and we'll see you in the next one.